Hey, what's going on? Y'all back with another one. Yeah, I just want to cover something different. Um, talk about the historical strength. Last week we talked about the Indus Valley and things like that. I want to show y'all some archives of my recent, well, not my recent, but we did Indus Valley, and I have a playlist called Dark History content that y'all can watch on the playlist, and it's pretty cool. It's the stuff I did in pre-records, streams, you name it. And the reason I post that as a playlist, if people keep asking about it, I tell them just watch the playlist and you can catch up what my content's all about. All the years I've done. So I have everything on the playlist that if you missed or did not know about my channel, you'll understand that I did this for a reason. I did it for a reason. I talked about a little bit of everything. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna talk about certain things, but one thing's another. You just got to get in factual about. I did all that years ago. So we're just gonna promote it and do what we do, and just you know. And I'm not gonna make this of a long of a thing. We're just gonna cover some things and just cover some topics that I've already done. It's no need, and wherever one I will try to explain and match it up in politics we can, but the histories and stuff like that. And then we got the science part of it. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So we got it right here. I mean, they said non-existent Hittite empire. That pissed a lot of people off. Had a lot of dislikes on that one. But let me see something real quick. Let's see something real quick. Let me get this little share of my channel and just look at it for that aspect. So I'm just gonna look at it for y'all. Yeah. Oh, stop sharing, stop sharing, stop sharing. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. I got the wrong one. Hold on, hold on. Let's play YouTube. Yeah. Let's look at this right here. Yeah. Let's see something real quick. All right. Oh, it's the screen's all blue on the side. Oh, okay. And sharing the screen. Let me put this. All right. Now you see right here, more is the journey. I did that 10 years ago. Got a lot of views on that. You know why? Then the ancient Europe, of course, I did that around the same time. Same website. Shouts out to the brother that had the research. Salute to him. Appreciate him for doing this and all the things he's done, you know. And then you get to Europe, part one, part two. And I talked about the King George, the penny. Talk about a little bit of everything. King Misha with the Phoenician tablet. That's pretty good. If y'all want to watch that, that's like what, 9 years old, probably going on 10. The Phoenician tablet. Talked about Egypt on this one, world history, black civilizations, and then we did a part two of it. Same thing, and that was over 2 hours. Y'all can watch that still. It's still going. Elam, talking about the history of Elam. Talk about a little bit of everything. Canaan, I already talked about Canaan. Y'all see that. The first part was short and the second one. Never get it. Never get it. It was on a live stream. And that's like 2 years ago almost. And then you got the history of Cambodia. I talked about that. Talked about Thailand. Shouts out to the individual that was in this stream. It's a little longer. But it is what it is. The history of pre-Central America. Did that, South America. I did all that, you know. The South American history, that had a lot of views. I'm gonna tell you why I had a lot of views. People appreciate the one, you know, that's a good one. To see the others, they didn't really care, but that one they cared. Pre Central America, you know, got some little shots thrown and all that other stuff. But a little something for next Wednesday's topic. That was like a short pre-record to history. History of writing of Hannibal. Did that 2 hours. This got some views too. That's a good one too. So most of the stuff I'd already done. And that's half of what I've done. You know what I'm saying? Like that's half. So if you want to look at videos from the past, be my guest. That's recent upload and they'll show you the popular. You know what I mean? Ancient Yaphites is good. To my descendants of Japhet in the scriptures, where they come from, breaking down from scripture to scripture. Indo-European languages and the history of its inception. Good piece. Y'all should watch that. That's a good fair assessment. It's like 20 minutes. Black Mediterranean history. I went into that. You appreciate that too. It's a little, you know, Indo history, 40 minutes. So it's pretty much Sacred Drift. That's also a Noble Drew Ali. That's why I put that. I read a little bit about it, but he did drop that Vez down and put a turban. But we ain't gonna get into that. Shouts out to Elder Young One. He let me use this from Daily Motion, and I uploaded. And shouts out to the brother right here. And talk about the tribes where they were at, saying they all Negro. You know, ask me. You know, I'm the source too. He's the source, but I'm the source as well. You know, I do my own research too. I used his for as a out of respect, and then I did my own. Seal of Solomon. They try to give me hell for that one. Now, current events in the states, Black Georgia. This is a good book. I think it's in the library in Atlanta. I found the progressive era. The progressive era of Black Georgia. That goes way back in the 20s, during the time where Tulsa and all them other places. It's pretty much like you see what you get with this. It's a good stretch. I was saying this back 9 years ago. This is like 2013. This is like 9 years ago. Well, actually, it's gonna be 10 years ago. By the way, it'll be 10 years this year. On my 10-year-old videos, it'll be 11 years. You know what I'm saying? As you can tell, that's just what it is. Division and Yasharal talk about that. You know, I'm on Hebrew shit. What this channel was mainly for, but I switched it to current events. I know the truth of the Heavenly Father, y'all, but I just teach it in spurts. It's a diverse channel. That's when I went to the carnival 10 years ago. 10 years ago. I was around in May. It's old. It's old. But, you know, response to Mithras Christianity. Broke that down. Yeah, see, I cammed up those years when I was a lot younger. I'm in my 30s now, going on 40, but you know, that's a long time. That's a long time. I've been on YouTube for decades, man. It ain't nothing. I've been on YouTube since '07 when I was 19. I did this as a hobby. Know how to make content, bro. It's nothing. It's nothing. So yeah, I was going to phase coming back, being crazy. Let's see. I'm gonna give you about Black Georgia. I'm gonna give you this one. I'm gonna go on mute. Hold on for a second. Peace. I'll be talking about this book that I got from the library last day, and I seen some videos off Wacky Mortal O. He talked about economics, what we're gonna do about it. Well, the economics back then, it's just like it sounds like this book right here, and it talks about the progressive era, 1900s to 1920s, and this is a time before World War One and probably after World War One. See, I sound younger right there, and I'll tell you how old I was. I was okay. What month was that? Okay, I'm trying to see what month was that. Show more. Okay, I just turned 25 that year. Okay, I just turned 25 that year. 25 years old that year. So it's June 15th, 2013. I was 25 already. Okay, that's what a 25-year-old sound like. I'm 30 something now. Sound heavier in the voice because I done got older. You know what I mean? I sound the similar, but I sound more heavier. You know what I mean? I'm not more brash as I was in my 20s, because in my 20s I cherished those years, but at 25 I was really doing things. But what I got now, I sound different because of the microphone, but it does bring clarity. Shouts out to Tony Anthony, aka Music Therapy. He was saying that on my stream this past Sunday. He understood, like, yeah, things is different when you amplify. But if I had a mic years ago, man, I'd be dangerous. But that's just me. I'm not going to say anything else because back then it was totally different when I posted this. This was 2013, and yes, it's still getting views, but Black Georgia touches everything that I said. It's not getting a whole lot of views, but it is getting some views because this is more positive, too positive. But when you talk about the progressive era, this has come from a library book. John Dittmer, or whatever how you pronounce his name, but he was popular at then, and you got people commented years ago. This is all the stuff that I had, man. Like, this stuff is I was on it. I was on it back then. Because back then it was totally different. Like 2013, you'll never see content like this ever again. Okay. You'll never see it again because it's one of those contents that you're going to see. And the reason I'm showing y'all this is what I was on in 2013. Now, I talked about the historical Black stuff and history and the ancient, had my own so-called conscious community mindset. And I always had that conscious mindset mixing with scriptures and all that. That was my main content. But then when I wanted to go into current events, what's going on and what's dealing with over here, I gave answers like this. I've been on this. The only difference now is I'm streaming and testing the waters with topics like current events instead of the effery that you see on YouTube, and it's programmed by certain people, descendants of Esau, pushing propaganda all day long in your heads, right? So that's what I'm mainly is isolating from that and focus on the real issues and give y'all certain solutions to stay out of, and especially here. Learn about this state, learn a lot about it, how Black people act. And, I'm from another state myself. This is my residing state. So I'm glad I posted this and it got some attention. So I'll let y'all hear the rest of it as much message y'all can. I'm just going to go on mute. I'm going to let it play. I'm going to mute. Hold on for a second. I'm going to go on mute. So this book is very interesting, and I'm going to get a page out of this book. It's called Black Georgia. We known as so-called Black people, that's what they called us, Black, back then. But it's by John Dittmer. John Dittmer was the one
that at first I didn't want to pick up this book, and this book was very interesting. I'm still reading it though, and it talks about a lot of racial politics, and it talks about community, new slavery. I think I got it written down somewhere, but I'll get that in a minute. Let's see here. On page 3, if you get this book, I think you can order it online or something. But I got this from the library. It's an old book. I think I got the original copy. It's an old book by John Dittmer. I'll read a part when it says about W.E.B. Du Bois, even though he was a Mason, but W.E.B. Du Bois once observed that Georgia was not only the geographical focus of America's black population, but in many other respects, but now and yesterday, the Negro problems have, so-called Negroes or so-called blacks, whatever you want to call it, seemed to be the center in the state. Georgia was in the heart of the Cotton Kingdom with slavery. Its dominant institutions before the Civil War, that conflict left much of the state in ruins, but white supremacy, known as Roman supremacy, but however was not to be casualty, outliving both slavery and the war to become the only just basis for dealing with freed men. The brief post-war reconstruction did not satisfy Georgia's 500,000 newly freed slaves. The peculiar institutions died hard there, and the federal government's failure to provide economic compensation for years of forced labor often put blacks at the mercy of former masters after meeting all congressional requirements, including Negro enfranchisement. The Masons back then. That's where what's his name? Du Bois was part of the Boule, and he kind of destroyed what's his name, Marcus Garvey. It talks about him a little bit in this book, and it's sad. But these people back then, like Heman, Perry, I read some of him in here, and it said how he flourished, and then he kind of failed and went for the integrationist mode. I mean, it's a trip. Talks about Henry McNeil Turner, things like that. And then it says enfranchised Georgia rejoined the Union in July 1868, but 2 months later, Georgia's House of Representatives evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans. That's when that BS starts. It's all perpetuated by these devils, expelled 25 black members. That's what they said. Shortly after, the predominantly Republican Senate removed 2 black members, including Henry McNeil Turner, in protest and dismissal of young Turner, warned that the white men are not to be trusted. They will betray you. This means revolution. So yeah, they was fighting the clans back then. But I'm gonna stop right there. As a map, I know you can see in this book, it's like before you turn after page 4, in the mountains they was ruling. These are the 5 sections of Georgia. I couldn't put it on the screen, but I couldn't find it. It said the 5 sections of Georgia with percentage blacks form of a total population in 1910. They took Wiregrass, Black Belt, in Macon, Albany, Augusta, Columbus. They tried to took Atlanta at one time, but the whites kind of pushed them out and told them go back to where you came from and told them back. You remember those days, like in the neighborhood, and you try to sell business. What they did, they said go back home and leave your stuff here, and they kind of like stealing your stuff in a sense. That's what they did back then. That's what they do. That's what these devils do in the mountains. But that's just part of the summary of it. But I've done the working parts of this, the working. I'm gonna get it right here. Yeah, I mentioned the 5 sections. Okay. It says working. After the Civil War, most black people followed the same line of work they have engaged in during slavery. Antebellum houses servants became caterers, barbers. Write this down. Barbers. What's that? Okay. Okay, barbers, maids, and cooks, while slave carpenters, blacksmiths, brick masons sold their own service after freedom. They did have 70,000 tenants, and blacks did had 70,000 tenants, and they also had 10,000 farmers at this time period. You know, it was a progressive era. We was trying to build our own economics after slavery, kind of like Booker T. Washington. And he told him,
I don't know what's going on, but it kept, acting up, whatever. So basically, what I was saying, we was talking about the Booker T. Washington era and things like that. But it gets a little hectic, but trying to adjust it a little bit and let y'all hear the rest. But yeah, I said that's 114 minutes. But you got to remember, back then, when I was doing this type of content, I was aware of what was going on in historical facts, researching, and especially what you see now. But you see it all the time, but people get caught up on the nonsense, and there they are. And, because I was speaking this way for years. So you heard a little bit, but it kept buffering. I'm sorry to hear that. And I came back and I stepped away a little bit and I said, damn, what's going on? Let me go back for a minute and see what we said right here. Go back if y'all missed it. Yeah, let's see.
oh yeah, they was fighting the clans back then. But I'm gonna stop right there. As a map, I know you can see in this book, it's like before you turn after page 4, and in the mountains they was ruling. These are the 5 sections of Georgia. I couldn't put it on the screen, but I couldn't find it. It said the 5 sections of Georgia were percentage blacks form of a total population in 1910. They took Wiregrass, Black Belt, in Macon, Albany, Augusta, Columbus. They tried to took Atlanta at one time, but the whites kind of pushed them out and told them go back to where you came from and turn them back. You remember those days, like in the neighborhood, and you try to sell business. What they did, they said go back home and leave your stuff here, and they kind of like stealing your stuff in a sense. That's what they did back then. That's what they do. That's what these devils do in the mountains.
See, what I was talking about, yeah, the sins of Esau and all them people, right? I was really talking about the culture of this state back then. Like they came to the state where I originally from, and other places they tell them, leave your stuff here and go back. And it was in the book, and I actually read it, and I said, damn, this book has so many facts in it, and it talked about the accounts of 1900s to 1920s, the start of it before Wall Street. This is before Wall Street. Now, this is before Wall Street. Georgia already had something like this. It was the first one. That's why Georgia's history is so rich. You can find a lot of darkness and pains why these cities were made. See, a lot of people don't know about the history of Georgia. They really don't. They just look at it from it's rainbow, all that. You don't know shit. I mean, was there some same-sexual people around outside of Atlanta? Yes. See, I studied this state for what it is, and they don't really care much. As long as you don't act crazy like a terrorist, you're good. All right. I'm just giving you a reality of the history of what they will say Black Georgia. Back then, the black population in Georgia at this time in this time period. So let's continue. Let's go.
You know, but that's just part of summary of it. But I've done the working parts of this. The working. I'm gonna get it right here. Yeah, I mentioned the 5 sections. Okay. It says working. After the Civil War, most black people followed the same line of work they have engaged in during slavery. Antebellum houses servants became caterers, barbers. Write this down. Barbers. What's that? Okay. Okay, barbers, maids, and cooks, while slave carpenters, blacksmiths, brick masons sold their own service after freedom. But they did have 70,000 tenants, and blacks did had 70,000 tenants, and they also had 10,000 farmers at this time period. It was a progressive era. We was trying to build our own economics after slavery, kind of like Booker T. Washington. And he told them take the same ideas if you want to go to another country or a new land after you was free. He was trying to form a two-state solution, kind of like what Malcolm did. But Malcolm took it to the extreme. He took it to where Garvey wanted, but what he was trying to do, Malcolm was trying to elevate to the highest level. But Malcolm wasn't like that, at first. But now he realized, but most black people didn't want it. He realized that black people he was disgusted from them. And the man was disgusted, and I think Brother Dawood explained that very well in some of the videos I've seen. And it's right, he was disgusted. If you did your history, Malcolm, he was pissed. Nobody didn't show up to his last lecture, and he was murdered by his own people, and his own people worked for the CIA, and that was Elijah Muhammad's son and Farrakhan. They didn't care nothing about Malcolm. Malcolm wanted something of his own. These people here that's in religion, they don't want none of this stuff. They want us dead, and they tell you a lot. And here, they said the black pastor is a cancer. He's a curse. They said, no, he's a curse through the black community, they would say, so-called black community. Okay, I'm going to get on to community. Let's get right to the community. To be black in Georgia was to fall victim to white oppression, to live each day in the shadow of violence. White supremacy prevailed, but it did not destroy the spirit of the black community, they say. Blacks built their own institutions behind the walls of segregation and preaching race pride, practicing self-help, just as lynchings, white capings, and race riots were facts of life in black Georgia. So where church picnics, baseball games, and Saturday night frolics, the history of the black community defines easily generalization. It is the complex story of men and women struggling to build their own society within a hostile environment. Yep. Ku Klux Klan equals, they represent the white Roman government. But the Roman government, they're the same, nation. They descendants of Rome, by the way. Racial politics, I ain't writing much. It says, for Georgia Republicans, the normal routine involving lobbying and for federal patronage and scrambling for the delegate seats to the national convention, but the state party had not filled a full slate of a candidate since 1882. Its leaders appeared content to the fight among themselves, but most whites view the Georgia Republican Party with the contempt labeling it a Negro party led by corrupt whites and a few black spoil seekers. Yep, that was what they labeled it as. You had a lot of that, and I don't know why they labeled it that way, but that's racial politics. But you had a lot of corruption down there. But the economics was good. We was trying to progress as a nation, and it was cut short. No wonder why it said 1900s to 1920. You know what happened? That was a revolutionary time period. And now it's like, when Malcolm brought it back in the 50s and the 60s, he was trying to bring that back again. But what happened? We got destroyed through integration. I saw some videos from Hollow Point Redux. He said something about that integration killed us. I seen the one he said the white people are evil. So-called white people are evil. He said that, and I kind of enjoyed it too. And he made some sense. And they are, and they still are. We know they're gonna say proverbs, like words. Like most people call them racial slurs, but I call them proverbs. They call it everything in the book. I mentioned that in one of my old videos. You can check out on Daily Motion. It's real sad, but they still call us they every day. But that's okay. Those words don't bother me. It just makes me struggle because he ain't got nothing better else to say. He's upset and emotional. That's how these devils are. Let's go to new slavery. It says, now they have built prisons all new to the U.S. Same slavery system. Purdue, talking about Sonny Perdue at the time that this person wrote inside this book. And it's interesting. He said it probably owns 5 jails or more outside info. And that's talking about the new slavery, they say in this book. I done did racial politics, so I'm on community. I don't get I got this on 74 and 75. it was written in this book. Someone wrote and got and know some truth. There's some deep stuff. I'm gonna go to the beginning of it and get you Jay McRee to come to Wake State. And then this person that wrote this book, the little stuff that goes on today in this state. You got a lot of coons out there, in Georgia, out here. Really, I live out here, and they crazy out here, and they'll know nothing about this book. And I mean, they need to read it and what these devils did to them. It's real sad, but I'm gonna end it right there. Hope you got a little insight what I put out there, and this is just more to come. I got this one right here. Yeah, I'm gonna be reading some books this week, but this is what I just want to throw up. Just a little history about this state, and make sure y'all read it, man. You can catch it online. It's called Black Georgia in the Progressive Era, 1900 to 1920.
So that was that. Black Georgia, yes. That's one of my inspirational piece, current events that did not get that many views, but that's fine. That's okay. I don't really get obsessed with views, but you gotta understand what I was talking about back then was relevant what it is now. Like this state I've lived in is went through a lot of changes. Yes, you have some practices still there, and then you got some places that are sundown. That's in most sun states, especially Tennessee's notorious to have that. Then Georgia's changed a lot. You see this past election that we had with Warnock and Herschel, and that's continue on in 2026, I believe. Because see, in 2024, you got Ossoff and somebody gonna have an election along with the presidency. So that's a whole different thing. That's what my main focus is. But yes, I'll be talking about historical stuff, current events, and then talk a little what is modern. I already gave y'all ancient knowledge, so now it's time to talk about some real stuff. That's what I talk about. And I stay into the philosophy realm and things like that. So that's my thing, and that's it. That's all I got. And like I said, this stuff matters in time. So when you focus on the things that you need to do, especially in these societies and read things like this goes on. But Georgia is very vast. I mean, it's a lot of history you need to know about the state, but they don't even know the proper history that y'all had it before Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know what I mean? I was teaching that back then. This was like, 9 years ago? Well, actually 10 years ago. 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years this June. So that video is 10 years old. So I've been around. Been doing this for a long, long time. Prior to this is my second channel, but my first channel is it was gone around the same year this channel was created. But I told y'all the story a million times, but I won't keep saying it. But I've been here, man. Been on this type of stuff for years and years to come. So with that, next Wednesday we're gonna get back on the stuff, historical stuff. We'll visit some of the things and then put it together in philosophy or whatever. I have an idea what I'm gonna talk about. So with that, I'm gonna say I'm out. Signing off. Shalom in the Most High Power Yah, in the name of Yah. Until next time, and I'm out.